So good afternoon, I'm Megan Kopka. I'm the chair of the board of directors for the Modern Widows Club, the movement for widow care. Today, we come together to celebrate the life and the extraordinary woman, Deborah K. Marshall. Happy birthday. I want to sincerely thank each of you for taking the time to be here today and to join us in celebration and in support. I know that lives can be busy, and we want to learn more about the impact of Modern Widows Club here today. So, let me grab my glasses here. Whew. We want to thank you for joining us in honoring Deborah's legacy. And it's also my privilege today to introduce someone who is equally remarkable, our founder and my dear friend, Carolyn Moore. So Carolyn, before dedicating her life to widow care, she enjoyed a thriving career as an interior decorator, working alongside her late husband, Chad. After experiencing the devastating loss of her husband, she transformed her grief into this mission, leading a movement that improves the lives of countless women like me and many of you in here who have also experienced the loss of a spouse or a partner. Carolyn is now one of the leading voices for widow advocacy, not only in our country, but worldwide she is called on. In addition, she has authored several books. She is spearheading the national conversation on how society can better support widows and their families. Her dedication and compassion continue to inspire me and many of us here today, helping shape a future where no widow walks alone. And now it's my great pleasure to welcome Carolyn Moore to the stage. Please help me welcome Carolyn.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to change the PowerPoint here. Hopefully you don't see too much of my messy screen. There we go. That wasn't too bad. Welcome, everyone. I love seeing everyone's faces and the mixture of Deborah's friends and some of the MWC ladies. I want to start just by acknowledging the widows that are in the room. If you are someone who is widowed or a part of Modern Widows Club, maybe you could just stand, or I want you to see the real faces of the women I'll be talking about. Yeah. There we are. Thank you all for coming. I'll be speaking about you, and in every room that I step into, I'm speaking about you and me, and you'll hear a little bit about my own mom. I also want to recognize the Legacy Luncheon Organizing Committee. Morgan, where's Morgan over here? Kat and Katie couldn't be here, and then Renzo has also been instrumental in making this event just as beautiful it is, and it is very beautiful, isn't it? Also my administrative assistant, Heather, who did your floral arrangements and made sure we had peonies, because that's Deborah's favorite flower, in case you ever want to send her flowers. And also Kat, who is here doing our social media. Hi, Kat, right back there. It is such an esteemed honor to present the MWC Legacy Award for Deborah today. I will tell you that when I was a young woman, I had no idea this is where I would be standing. But here we are, right? Another thing is we're all really fortunate to be here for this evening, not just because we're giving this award to Deborah, but the fact that we did not have a hurricane this week, and we could all show up here, right? Let me move this here. So, but there's another reason why today's so special. It's because it's Deborah's birthday. So later on, you're going to get to taste a very special cake. And if you look in the back of the room here, there is a very special cake Deborah, can I tell them a little bit? Okay, the cake is actually, the flavors in the cake was from Deborah's wedding. And so there's special memory when you eat the cake. Please remember that today we're talking about the love that all of us have experienced in life, but we're going to get a chance to sing Happy Birthday a little later. But what I was saying is when I was a young girl growing up, I grew up in a really small town in Arkansas. I wanted to be a gymnast, ice skater, your typical things. I ended up becoming a pediatric nurse and then becoming an interior designer. And now I'm an executive director of a nonprofit. 3 careers in a lifetime. And I really didn't actually know anything about widowhood. But like many of you, hopefully, you've experienced love in your life. And that happened to me. And the biggest love story of my life was when I met a man named Chad Moore. And he became my husband and the father of my children and my business partner. He was an architect, and we had a firm here in Orlando. That's why we moved here with Mark Michaels, and then my own firm, Romanza, which is in Naples, Florida now. But on February 14th, Valentine's Day, we were out for dinner and driving past through downtown, and a hit-and-run driver crashed into our car. And he died from severe head trauma, and I was a first responder and survived. That car crash changed the entire trajectory of my life. I would say I was living the American dream. Ran on my own business, had designed a house, I was living in it, had beautiful children. And as if becoming widowed young and a solo parent at 37 with daughters who were 2 and 4 was the worst thing. My own mother had become widowed 2 years before that. She was 52. And I did not understand widowhood at all from a distance, nor did I understand personally the complexities of widowhood, and possibly like many of you in this room, unless you know someone or you've experienced widowhood. My mom, she passed away a month ago, and I was able to talk to her about early widowhood and what she would have wanted different. And those memories made me realize I was not there for her. I wasn't there for her at all. And she experienced a lack of support faced by many women in society. But it was also at the same time when I was facing it. A 52-year-old mother, a 37-year-old daughter. Neither of us was receiving the support that we needed. I didn't understand the emotions. I didn't understand the tasks that had to be done and how long it lasted. And I didn't understand the many secondary losses that I would experience. And people who lose someone that they love. Yet there I was in the midst of, that was my family now. I struggled being an instant solo parent to babies. I had PTSD. I had survivor's guilt. I had depression. I had intense anxiety and just grief. I found support from my daughters, but I could not find support from me or my mom. And I made a promise to myself that if I survive this, somehow, some way, I will come back and I will make a difference in how widows are supported. That's the woman you see today. Our research shows that women in widowhood lose confidence. And many times they are in need of guidance and role models that might identify with them. And they need leadership. At Modern Widows Club, in our studies, we ask ladies, What was your life like before, and what was your life like after Modern Widows Club? Evidently, this comparable type of data is the golden standard. And what we found is that there is a drastic impact in decreasing depression, overwhelm, loneliness, isolation, while increasing confidence and a sense of purpose and an interest in their health. Modern Widows Club, the Movement for Widow Care, is a women's health organization. We focus on widowed women. And we do that by building community and by building a leadership model that promotes a healthy approach to this stage of life. As women who are moving from grief to growth, we are changing the narrative and telling women the truth of what is possible for them. They welcome this refreshing approach so much that we have impacted the lives of over 50,000 widows since we became a nonprofit 10 years ago. My work today is inspired by not only my mother and her experience, but by the thousands of other women with similar stories and who have shared with us a collective circle of women. And it's not just widows, it's their daughters and their sons and their co-workers and their places of worship, and their family members come to us and tell us, what do you do there? We love it. We see the change in our loved one. Because widowhood can crush wives and partners' spirit. That's what I can tell you. That's what happened to me. That's what I see in the eyes of women that show up at Modern Widows Club. And yet, some point in time, I see them again, and there's a different look in their eye. And I don't know what the cost of that is, but that is what you're investing in when you invest in our organization. There's too much social isolation and not enough accessible and helpful support. Widows experience something we call a detachment from someone that we chose to attach to forever when we make our vows. And MWC is creating attachment solutions to things that are healthy. I often say, and I'm known for this saying, widows are women of fulfilled marriages. Promise made, promise kept, promise honored. But ultimately, when I came to realize that caring for widows is both a moral and a spiritual obligation, it's also a matter of just caring for one another, being included in the care for people. I have this quote on my office from Helen Keller, and most of you have probably heard of it. I am only one, but still I am one. I cannot do everything, but still I can do something. And because I cannot do everything, I will not refuse to do the something that I can do. I take this quote to heart. And this quote was in my bathroom when I decided to invite two widows to come to my house on a Thursday evening just to have a little widows club. And I had no idea that there were literally millions of women around the world that would resonate with that. So from the humble beginnings of that simple gathering, we've turned into a huge volunteer service organization focused on women's health. We have 23 local U.S. communities and 13 virtual communities. Modern Widows Club delivers about 144,000 direct services annually, and about 7,000 widows are active in our programs today in 8 countries. Together, we are creating MWC not just for ourselves, but for all the women who will face widowhood, because the average age of a widow is 59, This is not common knowledge. And 70% of all married women will become widowed. At 40, the total population is only 1%, but at 85, 73% of our female population is widowed. So we build communities. We poll our widows and we work to listen to them so that we can serve them well. We straddle in society what's called the myths versus realities, which I was just talking to Wade and he said, this doesn't look like what I was thinking when you said Modern Widows Club. And that's what we do. We change what that looks like. And we also found out that women are coming to us when they leave traditional grief support. Those programs usually last around 1 or 2 years, but where do they go after that? This is where they go. During the pandemic, we ramped up really all of our virtual services to reach COVID-19 widows. And we met them virtually, and we evolved into a national organization and network, challenging ourselves with new innovative approaches like our Widow Life publication that anyone can read anywhere. At the core of everything we do generates more compassion, more solidarity, and hope for others and ourselves. And I believe, and I hope you do too, that this is something that we need more in the world. We are impacting multiple generations. When I think about a program, I think about my mom, I think about me, and I think about my daughter. And they may become widowed someday. Our website is translated in every language that you can possibly want to read our website, but more importantly, the 39 languages of the countries that have more than 1 million widows. Our programs and our services are widow-led, they're widow-designed, they're widow-empowered. And until today, hopefully, we're not going to just be widow-funded. Widowhood has many stories, and unfortunately today, another 2,800 married women in the USA will become a widow. My story is one of them, my mother's is another, but our journey is not over, and what we work towards every day is for our WISTers, which is what we call ourselves, Widow Sisters, it's a trademark name we have, is to find the strength within and to utilize our tools, take the past experience and knowledge and help them overcome their greatest challenges. These stories are the stories of legendary widows, like, well, just recently Ethel Kennedy, Coretta Scott King. How about Rosa Parks? Anyone know she was widowed? How about Betty White? Or Linda Carter, Wonder Woman. Anybody remember that show? Women that faced their new journey and made a difference. Many of our past Legacy Award recipients also have amazing stories, and I'm just going to tell you two, and then we're going to talk about Deborah. In 2022, Heather Leathers, the founder of Global Fund for Widows, channeled her personal journey and professional expertise to spark a new way for third world widows to fund their own community by creating their own savings and loan banks. These were women that would not be given any capital. They were unbankable. I learned so much from Heather. Heather has an economics degree from Wharton School of Business. She was deeply impacted when she saw her own grandmother in Egypt lose everything that she and her grandfather had acquired. She was not allowed to own property. She was not allowed to have a bank account. And Heather was blown away. So Heather went to find a way so that they could create community banks by pooling their limited resources and learning something called interest and creating their own banks. Heather has taught me, introduced me to the United Nations, and we go together when we speak about international and domestic causes for women in widowhood. And then there's Dr. Deborah Oliver. Last year, Deborah headed a research project. She's at Washington University in St. Louis, and she was originally focusing her study on experiences of hospice caregivers. But when she faced the profound loss of her own spouse as she entered widowhood, she channeled all of her funding towards studying widows. So her personal journey actually gave so much meaning to her work. And she drove the force for academia to recognize and include widows in research. So her research has actually uncovered a very critical connection, because many hospice caregivers eventually become widows themselves. But where do those women go? So Dr. Oliver has dedicated now to illuminating the realities of widowhood and advocating for the support that these women so urgently need. For 5 years, we have been giving this award, but this is the first time we are having a luncheon, and in part because we have a local hero in Deborah Marshall. But I just want to tell you what the Legacy Award is. The Legacy Award is given to one extraordinary person annually who goes above and beyond in serving to empower widows and their families around the world. They are of the highest excellence, who possess the greatest levels of virtue, nobility, humbleness, compassion, fortitude, and the epitome of what we call heroic leadership. And today we get to celebrate Deborah Marshall as one of our legacy recipients for 2024. Because that's what Deborah embodies, everything that we were looking for. And she also is giving deep impact to widowhood. And I'm going to tell you, from the moment I was introduced to Deborah, I knew that you were someone truly special. And I remember I was speaking at a luncheon. You were right there in front of me. And I sat down. I never know what people think when I'm talking. And she said immediately, I had no idea, but I will be here to help you. And so will AmFund. She didn't hesitate. She didn't have to think about it. She spoke from the heart. And I really appreciate that. She has supported countless nonprofit organizations through her leadership and her amazing career. But Deborah doesn't just keep her word, as those who know her well. She just goes beyond. It's just who she is. It's who I've gotten to know. She's always reflecting on how to create an even bigger impact. It was a good hire. It was her vision and encouragement that propelled our MWC, Model Widows Club, to become the movement for widow care, to become bold and expansive in our mission. She inspired us to embrace this dual identity. We were already doing it. We just needed to shift and talk about it more on the perspective of advocacy and outreach and direct services. Thanks to Deborah's insight, we are preparing ourselves to serve more women and families and empower widows everywhere. And there are many, many to serve in this room and right outside these doors, where 36,000 Central Florida widows need to be known, and 914,000 widows in the state of Florida, which happens to be the third largest state in the U.S., need to be served. If we do it here, maybe everyone else will follow. Hopefully today, we will all begin to uplift our grandmothers, our mothers, our daughters, our aunts, our friends and our neighbors and our coworkers. Because many of them are widows and we don't even know who they are. I hope that we begin to be included in the philanthropic conversations, and that our faith-based organizations take a second look at how they're supporting widows and build structures where they have more support. We all have a little bit to give. Like I said, do something to break the cycle of indifference. I believe that we need to create something called lifespan values for all women in all the stages of their life. And if we do this, we will collectively empower and create a lasting change for generations to come. There's not a woman that I have met in this organization that wanted to become widow, including myself. And I'm sure I can speak for you, Deborah, and to everyone else in this room. But it's my job to envision a future where no woman is left behind, where she's honored for her inherent value and her worth is acknowledged and empowered at every stage. And that's what Modern Widows Club, the movement for widow care, is all about. We are here to lead that way. Thank you. So we have about 10 more minutes if anyone would like to get a Key West ticket. If you didn't know, AmFund has graciously donated an Ultimate Key West trip. We're going to do the drawing in about 15 minutes, so if you want to buy that ticket, but now is the time for you to enjoy your lunch and meet some of the people you're sitting with. And I know Deborah's going to get up and walk around. I'm so excited. This is the first time we've ever had, a trip to give away, and I bought a ticket. So, thank you, Deborah. Everyone enjoy your lunch, and we'll talk soon.
We do not have to have the winner present to win. We've been selling tickets leading up to this fabulous event, and thank you, Carolyn, for putting everything together. AmFund is proud, and we have been honored to partner with the Modern Widows Club and Movement for Widow Care for some of their fundraising events. And this exciting trip for two is to Key West, Florida.
It includes 4+ star accommodations, a 2-day Old Town trolley pass for your transportation, as well as a selection of 2 tours from our AmFund selected and trusted tour operators. That could be a sunset cruise, a snorkeling excursion, a foodie or history walking tour. And you have 3 full years with no blackout dates to actually plan and take that trip with our travel specialists who work within our AmFund office. They will take very good care of you. So without further ado, we will pick our winner. Give it a good shake, Carolyn.
I am. For the winner, this is for you.
This is for the winner. Exclusive, only 200 tickets sold. And our winner is Mary Ann Tarantine. Congratulations.
I don't know if she's here. Is she here?
Today, but we will definitely.
Nope, she's not here today?
Okay.
Okay.
We have phone number and email address. We will contact her and let her know. So
Absolutely. Thank you.
you so much,
Thank
Carolyn.
you, Morgan.
Thank you. You're so
Yes. So we're going to go ahead and continue to enjoy as your lunches come out. I have the pleasure of introducing John Milton, the amazing son of Deborah Marshall. I'm going to have him come up, and he's going to give us a little of a personal side of Deborah. So come on up, John. You got it.
Hey, how's it going? Anybody hungry yet? All right. I was tasked with talking about the essence of Deborah Marshall. So pretty easy. I have a couple of things that just immediately came to mind that I want to share, and I've been thinking about it for the last couple weeks, couple months, of the things that I think would be appropriate. Different anecdotes that came to my mind about capturing a scorpion in our living room. Not knowing what to do with it, so we put it in a mason jar and stuck it in the freezer. But I don't think that's necessarily a lifelong lesson. There was a time when we were looking at colleges for me, and we were up in the Buffalo area and decided to go ahead and go see Niagara Falls. And I don't know if we did it on purpose. We ended up going across to Canada. And they asked us if we had anything to declare. This is long before we had to do passports up there. But we just bought a case of Dr. Pepper. Because it was hard to find Dr. Pepper in the North in those days. And we told them we had Dr. Pepper to declare and just started laughing and couldn't stop. And I'm surprised we didn't arrest us. We had something else in the back. Anyway, there are two things that I want to share specifically about that I think are really the essence of Deborah Marshall. Two pillars of faith and work. And I just want to give a couple of instances from my experience, and for any of you who have known her for any length of time, know that these are absolutely who she is. One of the highlights of my childhood was Sunday lunches. We would go to church every Sunday morning, and after church we would go and have lunch, and we would discuss the message, what we agreed with, what we didn't agree with, and things that challenged us. Most importantly, it was the way that she walked out her faith. It was not something that she forced on me, and I don't think anybody else has seen her force it. She just simply demonstrates it. She walks out her faith every day in her actions, and that will come into play even when I talk about the second pillar here in a moment, about work. But, it was... She taught me early on not to necessarily agree with everything that I heard, especially if it came from somebody who was popular or even somebody who was in a position of authority, but really, dig into scriptures, dig into history, dig into just truth. What is truth? And when you can either reject it, or when you do accept it, if you do accept it, then walk it out. Make it an authentic part of who you are. And that's who she is. And so that was really important. When there was an instance, that personal story I'll share here. When I was a sophomore in high school, I'd been a really shy and quiet kid, and really kind of began coming out of my shell that year. And I got invited to a party one night by a group of really popular seniors. And I called her to say, since she was my ride at the time, can I stay over with these folks tonight? And she said, yes, I trust you. Those were some powerful words, because I thought, oh shoot, well, I wasn't really planning on doing anything wrong, but maybe was I don't know. But anyway, there were lots of alcohol and drugs at that party, and I did not partake. I had my best friend in high school. His dad was a raging alcoholic, and I didn't get to meet my biological grandfather but a couple of times, but I know that he was an alcoholic and some issues, and so I knew enough that wasn't a temptation for me. Anyway, so the next morning, which was a Sunday morning, I think I missed church that next morning, but we still went to lunch, and I shared with her everything that happened at the party. It wasn't hard because I didn't have to confess a whole lot, but I know for sure that if I did need to confess something, it would not have been difficult to do, because that was the mercy and patience that she shared with me. And I mean, don't get me wrong, I made plenty of mistakes before and many after that. But that night was good. So it's trust. Okay. All right. Let me step forward to the second pillar of work. You all know she's had an extraordinary career, and in a few moments, Barbara's going to come up here and share some of those big highlights. But I think it's important for me to share what I witnessed, especially as a young preteen and teen, watching her in one specific career, and that was when she was doing property management. She was responsible for several multi-million-dollar projects that had to be accomplished, and some of them in some difficult areas with difficult personnel. As a matter of fact, my daughter Olivia and I were a couple of weeks ago, took a visit down to the mall at Millennia, and I almost had PTSD because I looked up and the entire mall has skylights, and you know where I'm going with this. Skylights through the whole thing. So she had this big shopping mall in New York that she was working on, and I don't know if we were just having a special rainy season or what, but those skylights leaked, which seemed like for months and months and months. And it's where I really first began to witness her direct servant leadership role. They were just leaking, and I remember her grabbing a mop from one of the custodial workers and said, "That's not how you mop, this is how you mop." And she just got in there, and she mopped, and she mopped, and she mopped. And even when the storms weren't there, we couldn't walk down the mall without her seeing trash. She always just saw garbage everywhere, which I couldn't see, and she would go pick it up, and she'd speak in whatever language she needed to the person who needed to say, "That's your job to pick that up. That cannot be on the floor." So anyway, that's her integrity. While she was at that property too, a couple of things happened. The first one was, I don't know how many times it occurred, but you shared with me a few times where someone would literally dump wads of cash on your desk. people trying to bribe her so that certain contracts would get pushed through, whether it's garbage or who knows what else is happening. And she just flat out rejected it. And it cost her relationships, it cost her promotions, and because that was just the accepted thing that was to be done in those days. Probably still these days in certain parts. And it cost her even in the future when some things came back to haunt her later from some people who just didn't like the fact that she was Miss Goody Two Shoes. But she was able to walk with integrity in those days and these days to be able to look back still. One other incident that occurred there I just want to share is there was a carjacking that happened at that mall. And it was an incident that was horrendous. The person who committed the crime ended up murdering two young men who were about my age, so I know that was probably difficult for her to witness. But nobody could have stopped it. This crazy person had just done what they had done. But because it was so outlandish that this incident would have occurred, people were desperate to find somebody to blame. And so they blamed her. Because she was the head of the property, therefore she must have been to blame, even though she had absolutely nothing to do with it, obviously. But I saw national names that you would recognize from national news who came after her and would try to lambaste her. And I watched her day after day with the same integrity that she had with the bribes, the same integrity that she had in every area of her life to say, no, this is not the case, but with grace to say, here's the truth of what happened. She took responsibility where she could, but was still walked through, even though slime was being thrown at her every step of the way. So, to close that point, when she left that property, and it was definitely not the first time, definitely not the last time, it's happened many times since. As she was leaving that position, as her last couple of days came, people came up to her from the office, some people that she didn't remember having spoken to before, some people that may have given her grief, and they just said, thank you. We appreciate you, we're going to miss you. Thank you for how you prayed for me when this situation happened. Thank you how you did this and how you just led with integrity. We love this. And I think that's the essence of Deborah Marshall. So, thank you. And now I have the honor of introducing Barbara West, who would come join us. She's going to talk about some of those really awesome career moments.
Thank you ever so much, John. I learned something about Deborah today. This woman is always unveiling something new discoveries, and it's wonderful. Everything is wonderful about Deborah. In fact, it was... Do I have lettuce in my teeth? Okay, it's hard to... What? Okay, too loud. Is that better? I like to sound like this. So it was nearly 7 years ago that an angel walked through the door of the American Fundraising Foundation. Deborah Marshall was applying for a job with us. And Wade and I had founded Amplin about 20 years earlier, and we were suffering some severe growing pains at the time. And we were very concerned about how we were going to manage that. But this beautiful woman who came through the door with all of her qualifications and all of her talents was more than we thought we needed for the position that we were hiring for. And we were very concerned that she'd be unhappy in this mid-level position. And so we reviewed her resume and realized it was very, very incredible. When she was only 22 years old, Deborah was the marketing coordinator at Panavision. Now, Panavision was the company that supplied the very sophisticated cameras for major television shows and for movies too. And at that time, Panavision was on the set of the show Dallas. Raise your hand. Do you remember the show Dallas? What a fabulous show that was. Just a series that just hooked you from week to week to week to week. Well, at that time, remember, the cliffhanger episode when somebody shot JR. And we spent the entire summer saying, who shot JR? Well, Deborah thought of a great marketing campaign. And so she bought ad space, full space ads in magazines and in newspapers, and she developed this campaign of who shot JR. And what you saw is you saw this man with a trench coat on and a fedora hat on from the back. Did he shoot JR? And so as the ads continued throughout the entire summer, building suspense, the angle of the camera on the ad would begin to sneak over to the side so that you knew sometime you were going to see who shot JR. And finally, the last ad is front on, facing this figure, and it's a Panavision camera covered with the trench coat and the fedora hat. Panavision was the one who had shot JR in the series. For that, Deborah won a National Addy Award. This is like the supreme award for the advertising industry. She's 22 years old, and she wins this award. She then went on to manage that large network of shopping centers and such throughout New York, Maryland, and New Jersey that John had told you about. And that's where she met her husband, Greg. Greg was director of construction and engineering for major projects like shopping centers, skyscrapers, and colossal resort hotels. And it was that hotel construction that then brought them to Florida. But just before Deb moved to Florida, she was also managing the expansion and the sale of a very prominent hospital in the New York City suburbs. Now, this job was really delicate and required a lot of finesse. She was attracting doctors' practices to the hospital. She was building specialties at the hospital. She was managing, it was a religious hospital, so she had to manage the religious interests and also the nonprofit interests with all of the people who were really interested in the financial and the commercial interests too. While she's doing this, she's also managing the sale of the hospital, which had to be kept under wraps until everything was absolutely done. She did this impeccably. That finished, she comes to Florida. Knock, 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 knock on our door. And as I told you, Wade and I were absolutely fascinated by her, spellbound by her, wanted to hire her, but the job just wasn't at her skill level. She was here. It was here. And we didn't want her to start and be very unhappy. So we spent a long time in what I'll call the interview dance, talking to her, loving her so much, just can't make this a fit. And finally, Wade said to Deborah, you know what, we think this is unfair. You just have too many skills for what we're looking for at this point in time. So I know you have many other offers, some of them are really good. We think you should take one of those offers. And Deborah's reaction, I'll never forget it. She sat up in her chair. She looked at Wade right in the face, and she said, I am meant to be here. I know that I can help you. You know, sometimes God does something. Just drops somebody or something in your lap and says, pay attention to this. And that was a real God thing. I'm absolutely convinced of that. So we hired Deborah. And I will tell you that that was the best decision I think that we ever made in our lives. So she starts off at her job. She does that well for a couple of months. And then we start tapping her brain for, can you help with this? Can you help with this? Can you help with this? And with a very short period of time, Deborah's running the place. And nothing could have made Wade and me happier because we were really exhausted from working 7 days a week for years. So we began to be able to cut back a little bit, and finally we were able to retire. And now Deborah is absolutely running AmFund like we never could before. And we're so thrilled with where AmFund is going. But I have to tell you that during this period of time, took a lot of time and investment on her behalf to make this work. And many, many, many nights we would sit in the office long after the rest of the staff had gone home, and we'd be planning and we'd be thinking and we'd be working on things. And Deborah's husband, Greg, would call and say, honey, when are you going to be home for dinner? I'll have it ready for you when you get home. She had an hour's drive each way to go to work. And Deborah would say, well, I'm in a meeting with Wade and Barbara, and we're not finished yet, so I really don't know what time I'll be home, but I'll call you on the way. And he'd say, okay, sweetie, I understand. Greg was such a wonderful man. He was always so supportive of Deborah and so supportive of her commitment to her work. Unfortunately, Greg passed away a couple of years ago. As deep as her grief was, Deborah just dedicated herself even more to AmFund. And her contributions to AmFund have done so much. We've been able to expand our reach to charities all across the United States. We now support about 800 deserving organizations nationwide. We've raised about almost $60 million for charities nationwide. Charities like Modern Widows Club, and we're very, very happy to be supporting Modern Widows Club too. And also just recently we gave a significant donation to Samaritan's Purse for their work in North Carolina helping the hurricane victims there. But so much of this, all of it really now, is only possible because of this wonderful woman's leadership. She truly is an angel. I know she's got wings under that outfit of hers. I'm absolutely convinced of it. So when you see her come up on the stage, you can look for the wings too. You probably won't see them, but I promise you, they are there.
I'll tell you. Oh, I was going to let you do the poster.
Oh, okay. So this is more than the Woman of the Year, more than the Legacy Award for me, that's for certain. But nobody deserves this more from Modern Widows Club than Deborah Marshall. Deborah, we raise our glasses to you, we toast your birthday. We're so glad for the day that you were born and glad for the day that you walked into all of our lives. So thank you so much.
Let's sing happy birthday.
All right, we'll drink our. Okay, and now that we've been fueled with champagne, I want everybody to join us in singing happy birthday. You lead the way on that. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Deborah. Happy birthday to you. And many more.
Perfect, thank you. Oh my goodness gracious. Well, thank you everybody. What a great moment that was. And we're going to call this the 7th inning stretch, okay? So everybody get ready. I really appreciate everything that you said, Carolyn and Barbara, wow, and John. I've forgotten some of those things. I thought you might talk about the jelly bellies that we did when you take your friends out for something, and I would have jelly bellies and I would make them eat one without looking at it, and we had people like spitting outside the car and stuff. It was amazing. Anyway, before we go too far, I would just like to recognize another person who is sharing my birthday with me. Lucy Bunn, I heard that this is your birthday, and we have a little gift for you. I've never been one to mind sharing the spotlight. So Lucy, congratulations, thank you. Thank you for sharing this birthday with me. And if there's anybody else in the audience that this is your birthday, I'll catch up with you later. So everyone has been so kind and gracious with your words and your encouragement and your congratulations. It's very humbling, to say the least, to hear all of these kind things that you've said. Some of you I've not met before until today, and you're an inspiration. You're an inspiration to so many people around you. You know, do you ever think about the what ifs and the whys? Sometimes I wonder, why was I born in Tyler, Texas, of all places? I mean, I know that my parents were there, so that makes sense, but, you know. What if I had been born in the Renaissance period of time, or the Dark Ages, or worse than that, a country, human, that would not even allow a woman to stand up before an audience like this and speak. And so I'm very, very privileged. But I do believe that I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be, that we all have a purpose, and we only find happiness when we walk in that purpose. I might have questioned that earlier in my life when I was trying to figure out what my place in this world was. There were certainly difficulties and challenges, some that could have crushed me, and yet they were actually grooming me and preparing me for my true assignment in life. You know, it's almost like climbing and trying to find a foothold on a craggy path. Sometimes those footholds came in the form of people coming into my life. Sometimes it was when I faced proverbial 2 roads diverged in a yellow wood, and sorry, I could not travel both. I'm grateful that Carolyn shared some of what the Modern Widows Club has done and what its movement for widow care is now doing for so many people. You know, everyone's experience through loss is unique. I know mine was. Whether it's a husband, a wife, a mother or father, a child, or your dearest friend, it hurts. How we respond to that loss is one of the challenges. Each story is different. Some find their greatest need in financial support, some in trying to navigate the resources for childcare, health care, even mental health care. Others are so bereft of their companionship, they once knew that they need a community to come alongside them to help them take the next step. Sometimes the hardest thing to do is to take that next step. I was introduced to the Modern Widow Club by one of my associates who is here today, Deb Roberts. Where are you, Deb? Yay, there's Deb. When she brought me information, I was about 9 months into my widowhood, and since I work for AmFund, an organization that supports nonprofit organizations, my only thought was, well, how can we help this organization? You know, being one of those stoic types, it never crossed my mind that I should delve into what they offer in the way of widow empowerment. During that time, I moved to Lake Mary, and I was warmly welcomed by the neighbors, several of whom are here today. Wave, neighbors. One of the neighbors invited me to a cocktail party in their home, and Victor, who many of you know, actually found out that I was a widow and invited me to a luncheon that he was hosting and where Carolyn was speaking. All right, let me digress for a minute. Not too many years ago, somebody told me about Easter eggs in movies. Those are those little hidden messages that you've been told about, but you have to find them. Well, I will tell you that even though I did not intend that Easter egg to be well hidden, I'm telling you that if someone moves into your community and they're new or something has gone on in their life, invite them into your home. You never know what kind of impact or impression it will make on them for their very future. And I will tell you, warning, I will be sharing some other Easter eggs along the way as I continue to share with you. So look for them and take them to heart because I think they matter. So returning to my story of discovering the Modern Widows Club, I attended that luncheon and I was truly blown away. Some of the facts that you heard earlier from Carolyn, I just couldn't believe the huge range of ages of widows. I think sometimes that we forget that tragedy can strike at any age. With all the incredible efforts being done by the team of MWC and the strides they were making, I knew that I wanted to help with whatever skills I might be able to bring to the table. Okay, how many of you lost power during the recent hurricane? Yep. Okay, I did. 5 days. I was in total darkness. I kept my refrigerator and my freezer closed because I was hoping I could preserve their content as long as possible. I had my battery-powered lamps that I was carrying with me around room to room to room. And I will never forget, every time I would go into a new room, even though I was holding that lamp, I'd flip the light switch on. I would laugh at myself, even though there was nobody there to hear my laughter. And every time I did it again and again and again. And, you know, it's funny that I realized that I could no longer keep the things that were in my freezers. So I had to go through things. I had a few places that I could stash some of my stuff. Thank you, John, for letting me use your freezer. Thank you, Wade and Barbara, for letting me use the freezer at AmFund. But I knew that I still had to throw a lot of the stuff away. You know, I thought about that storm this past week, and in so doing, I saw an analogy in the whole thing. And for those of you who know me, I love analogies. Losing someone that you love and care about can be like those lights going out. You walk around in the dark for a period of time. You also try to flip the switch as though they never left. You have people to come alongside you in the early days of loss, and when their kind words and condolences end after a couple of months, you find yourself a year or two even later, and there's nobody there to share in what I call the delayed bereavement. Even though I had to sort through those things in my freezer and some of the personal items when I was going through some of Greg's things, I tell you, it's totally different when you're going through somebody else's stuff, and it's not like sorting through food in your freezer. But I will tell you one thing for sure. The lights do come back on. That's part of the empowerment that the Modern Widows Club and Movements for Widow Care does. On your table, there are some booklets. And I really would like for you to take the time today and in the next couple of weeks to really look into that, because there's so much information in there that both Carolyn shared, but it tells you a little bit more about the scope of the organization. Now, I'm going to pause here just for a moment and tell you that Callie, who is here, wave Callie. Callie and I go across the country and we speak to a lot of different organizations about a lot of different things, and we talk about being me being the prop queen. And I will tell you that there are so many different things that we have taken to make a particular point at an organization. And sometimes it's been something like basketballs, blind spot mirrors, rubber bands. I mean, it's just a whole lot of different things. And I was not going to be outdone today. So on your table, there is a small gift box. And I would like someone at your table to open it and pass it around the table, and you take one item out of the gift box. It is a little silk pouch. Don't open the pouch yet. Just open the box, Wesley. Open the box and pass it around. I'll be checking on all of you. Take the box and take one of the items out. And I'm pausing a moment so you'll do that. And I'm looking around the room. Everybody take a little pouch out. Okay. Is everybody following instructions? Each pouch contains at least one $1 coin. At least that. Some pouches contain a $1 coin and some other coins. It might be a penny, a dime, a couple of quarters, but all of them have a $1 coin in them. One pouch somewhere in this room contains a $1 coin and a Morgan silver dollar, valued at about $30, depending on today's silver market. Another pouch contains a $1 coin and a 1-ounce silver eagle coin, valued at about $45. Okay, now you can open up your pouch and see what you might have. We'll see who has a treasure. And those $1 coins look like about the size of a quarter, so don't be deceived. Some of them are gold colored and some of them are silver colored. All right, if I can just draw your attention up here one more time. So the reason I'm giving this token to each of you is to remind you that we each have different levels of giving. I know there are many great organizations that you can support. Barbara mentioned a few of them. And today I'm asking you to support the Modern Widows Club and its movement for widow care. There's some cards on your table that I ask you to fill out with your donation or your pledge. Some of our volunteers will come around to pick them up in a few minutes, but it's really important that we step outside of ourselves and we do what we need to do to support others. There's only one time in my life that I remember asking for something specific for my birthday. I was 6 years old. I was with my family at a mall in Texas. We were window shopping, and there they were. The most beautiful gold sandals that I had ever seen in my 6 years of living. I begged and I cried. I begged and I cried. Oh yes, over and over again. I need those gold sandals. I knew that if I could just have those gold sandals, that I would be like the princess of all princesses. Well, today marks only the second time that I've asked someone for a specific birthday gift. And I'm asking you to honor me by making a contribution to this wonderful organization. Please fill out your form and accept a little money pouch as my gift to you and a remembrance of the good that you can do at any level of giving. Oh, and in case you're wondering, I got those gold sandals. Thank you so much.
May your day be the princess of all princesses. Well done. Deborah, thank you for your incredible leadership and your unwavering support. We're so grateful for everything you've done to champion our mission. Once again, to all of you, thank you for sharing this special moment with us. A heartfelt thank you to our sponsors, our supporters, and especially you, and we count you all as widow supporters today. On your table, you also have a brochure of a pamphlet with you. Please review on your own time the booklet that has been provided for you to learn more about our organization. And take the brochure home with you. Please feel free to share it and support it with another widow, even the widows in the room here. We are constantly moving forward while reaching back and helping others. So be sure to take that brochure with you. Deborah, thank you so much for being a friend for all of us. Barbara, you are correct. We will remember the moments and the days that we met you and when you came into our lives. We wish you all safe travels home from wherever you have come from, and until we meet again, take care and know how deeply appreciated you are. Thank you again for your widow support.